Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, going to be talking through the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, November the 25th. It's day after Thanksgiving, so hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. We got a big NBA slate to bring us back. Obviously, there were no NBA games on Thursday on Thanksgiving, but big slate tonight, 13 games. So we're going to go game by game, guys. We're going to talk through each one of these 13 games. Going to give you my quick thoughts on the slate, what I do like, taking a first look on Thursday night. But before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below and hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Also, if you're new to the channel, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. So PrizePicks, I'm sure most of you guys have heard of them, but they're a player prop based DFS site. Very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. They do have some projections posted for Friday right now. Obviously, I'm making this video the night before, so there's really not much up right now. But for a 13-game slate, once we get closer to the start of the games on Friday night, there's going to be a ton of props available. You can take a look at their full board, see if there's anything that you like. Again, you're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can now make up to 6 picks, and you can win up to 25x your money on PrizePicks. So give them a try, guys. If you haven't signed up for PrizePicks yet, sign up. Use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But let's go ahead and talk through Friday's big 13-game slate. Going to give kind of a quick overview of this one, game by game. So first off, start off with the first game of the night, Philly and Orlando. And looking at Philly, they're still going to be without their key guys. No Embiid, no Harden, no Maxey. We'll start off with the Sixers side. I think, once again, we can expect really big roles for guys like D'Anthony Melton, Tobias Harris, Shake Milton. DraftKings is slowly starting to raise the price tags on these guys. Melton's $8,200 now. Harris is $8K. Shake Milton is $6K. I think between of all the Philly guys, my 2 favorites are probably Melton and Milton. Melton's been really good, since Harden and Maxey have been out. He's been playing huge minutes. He's been really productive on a point-per-minute basis. I think the $8,200 salary doesn't make him like a priority play today. I thought, obviously the day he was $5,900, he was basically like a free square. The last 2 slates, he hasn't been like a free square, but he's still been a good play. Now that he's $8,200, I think he's still viable, but I'm not running to roster D'Anthony Melton. I think he would, if he's like a last piece in, I'm totally fine playing him. I think the same could be said for Tobias Harris. He's $8K, feels like an appropriate price tag. Shake Milton, though, is $6K, and I think I could still get behind Shake Milton at $6K. He's been really good since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, and he's been playing huge minutes as well. He's been productive on a point-per-minute basis. I think he should be like $6,500, closer to $7K, because he's a point-per-minute player that's going to play like 36 minutes. So I definitely think of all the Philly guys, Shake Milton is my favorite at $6K. And then I do want to talk about the bigs. So we've seen Montrezl Harrell start the last 2 games in place of Joel Embiid. Him and Paul Reed have kind of been splitting the center minutes. First game, Harrell only played 16 minutes. Then the next game, he played 22. Then we've seen Paul Reed off the bench play, a good amount. He's played 31 the first game, but then 22 last game. Between the Philly bigs, I think where they're priced at, now that Reed's $4,800 and Harrell is $4,900, neither one of them are like standout plays today. I think they're both priced where they should be. They're going to split the minutes, so it's going to be hard to consider them great values. If one of them was like $3,800, I think that'd be a different story. But when they're both almost $5K, especially in a tough matchup against Orlando, I think these Philly guys are not great plays in my opinion. I think my favorite play from Philly, again, is Shake Milton. And then on the Orlando side, I don't really like a ton on Orlando today. We'll need to keep an eye on the status of Wendell Carter Jr. He is questionable. I know the last few games he's been out, or at least last 2 games. And with Wendell Carter Jr. out, that has benefited Mo Bamba. It has benefited Bol. $7,200 for Bol I think would still be fine if Wendell Carter Jr. is out. We've seen Bol be really productive on a point-per-minute basis. His minutes are going to be really secure without Wendell Carter Jr. if he were to sit. And then Mo Bamba would likely start in place of Wendell Carter Jr. He's been playing really good minutes as a starter. Obviously, without Joel Embiid, this is not nearly as tough of a spot as you would think. Going up against Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed, I think it's a pretty good matchup here for Bamba. So, favorite play from Orlando, if Wendell Carter Jr. gets ruled out, my 2 favorite plays from Orlando are probably Bol and Mo Bamba. But if Wendell Carter Jr. plays, I really don't like anything on Orlando. Banchero's expected to be back for this game, but he's $8,600, so that's not a price tag that I'm really running to roster. Same could be said for the rest of these guys. So it's kind of a wait and see on the Orlando side. There's not really a ton in general that I'm loving on the Magic here. Let's go ahead and talk about the next game, though. Talk about Portland and New York. So for the Blazers, still going to be without Damian Lillard. So we can expect pretty big roles for Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic, Josh Hart. But the price tags on all these guys feel about right. I think Simon's at 80 or 7,600. I can still get behind, especially in this matchup. I know the Knicks this season, and historically, they've been a team that have given up a lot of three-point attempts, and we know Simons is a guy that takes a lot of threes. A lot of his shot attempts are going to come from behind the arc. The Knicks defense, I think, has been like mediocre this season. They've also been playing at a faster pace. So I kind of like Simons here as a tournament play. I think Yusuf Nurkic, his minutes are going to be more secure without Dame. They just need more offense, and obviously Nurkic is a guy that can kind of provide that. Last 2 games without Dame, he's played 32 and 28 minutes. In the game where he played 28 minutes against Cleveland, kind of was a blowout, and he was in foul trouble. So we could get like 33, 34 minutes from Nurkic here if he's not in foul trouble, if the game stays close. He's only 6,800. Like, I still do like Nurkic today as a GBP option. Him and Simons are the 2 guys I'm really interested in from Portland. And then do want to mention that last game they did start Justice Winslow over Shaedon Sharpe. Don't know if they're going to do that again, but last game Winslow did play 28 minutes as a starter, and he put up 25 DK points. He's historically been a pretty solid point per minute player. So if he were to start again, I think at 4,100 he would definitely be in my consideration for value. We'll have to see what other value opens up on this slate, but Winslow is a first look value. If he's starting again, I do have interest in at 4,100. But then talking about the Knicks side, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett. On this slate, I don't think any of these guys stand out as like great plays. I think if I had to go to one of the Knicks' big 3, I guess you could say, I probably would say Brunson's my favorite. But in general, I don't love a ton from the Knicks. I think the one guy that I do want to mention is, not Obi Toppin, but Quentin Grimes. So last game they were without Cam Reddish. He's questionable for today, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. They were also without, who else missed? I think it was, Derrick Rose missed last game. He's questionable as well. We did see Quentin Grimes start last game, and he was in foul trouble, I do believe. He was on pace to play pretty big minutes. He still played 33 minutes. In the last 2 games he has started, he's played 32 and 33 minutes. Now, Quentin Grimes has historically not been like the best point per minute player. He's kind of a scoring dependent guy, but he did get 8 assists one of those games. He had 5 rebounds too. At 3,500, if Quentin Grimes starts, again, I think we can expect him to play like 32, 33 minutes. So I think he'd be okay for value at 3,500. He'd be like probably my favorite play on the Knicks if I had to go to any Knicks today. But that's really it for this game. I think we can go ahead and talk about the next one, the Kings and the Celtics. So, for the Celtics, I think if I'm looking to any Celtics on the slate, I'm going to Tatum and Brown. I don't think any of the other guys like Marcus Smart, Al Horford, on a 13-game slate, I doubt these guys really make any of my lineups. I only play one lineup in NBA, so I don't think I'm going to play any of these guys in my one lineup. I think the guys I would consider for my main lineup would be Tatum and Brown. And, when they're both healthy, when they're both priced where they are, neither one of them are standout plays, but I will say this is a pretty strong matchup. The Kings have been playing fast. The Kings have historically been a pretty mediocre defensive team. I think Tatum has plenty of upside here. The $10,800 salary doesn't make him like a standout play. I'd rather go to some of these other pay-up options we're going to talk about later. But Tatum's viable in a good matchup. I think Brown is viable in a good matchup. But I'm not running to roster these Celtics guys. And then on the other side with the Kings, really tough spot here against a good Celtics team. Celtics defense this season hasn't been as stout, but I still don't think it's the best spot for Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox. I think they're just kind of low-owned dart throws. I think they will be very low-owned on a big slate like this. And then Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, I'm not playing these guys on a 13-game slate. They just won't make my player pool. So really not much I like in this game. I think if I'm looking at anything here, it's going to be the big 2 from Boston, and that's probably it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about Washington and Miami. So this is one where there's just a lot of injuries. I think these teams did play on Wednesday, and they're playing again today. And, Bradley Beal was out last game. Monte Morris was out last game too. Tyler Hero did play last game, but Max Strus was out for Miami. There's just so many guys questionable right now, so it's really tough to kind of gauge what we're going to want to go to in this game until we get some updates. We do know Jimmy Butler's going to be out again. Bradley Beal's questionable. Bam Adebayo is probable, so he's expected to play. But I do believe Tyler Hero is questionable as well. Max Strus I saw is doubtful. Monte Morris is questionable. I think Gabe Vincent's questionable. Rui Hachimura I believe is questionable too. He is. And then I think Duncan Robinson's doubtful. I saw that. So, I'll say that if Bradley Beal and Monte Morris play, I really don't like anything on the Wizards. Porzingis, I think, had a solid game last game. Or actually, he was kind of disappointing without Beal. It was a tough matchup, and I think this is obviously, once again, a tough matchup. But Porzingis' usage would definitely spike if Beal were to be out again. So, you could play Porzingis, but I don't love the spot, and his price tag's kind of high. Kuzma has a really high price tag. He was actually pretty good last game, 46 DK points in 40 minutes. But even if Beal is out, I'm not running to roster Kuzma because he's 8,300. where he should be priced, I think. If he was like 7K, I'd have a lot more interest, but at 8,300, I'm not super into Kuzma today, even if Beal does sit. We could maybe look to some value from Washington. I know Denny Avia had a really good game. Last game, he put up 44 DK points and played 41 minutes. I think if Beal and Morris are both out, he probably would be my favorite play from the Wizards. I think his minutes would be really secure. He's a guy that can produce when he gets minutes. He almost had a triple-double last game. Wouldn't expect that to happen again, but 4,600 for Denny Avia, I'd be okay with that. And then we did see Jordan Goodwin start in place of Monte Morris. Now, he didn't really do anything, but so far this season, Jordan Goodwin, he's been an okay point-per-minute player. He did have he's had a few big games. He's also had some just kind of mediocre games. At 4K, I'd be okay going back to Jordan Goodwin. I didn't play him last slate, but I know a lot of people did. If Morris and Beal are both out again, I think Goodwin is a viable, cheap option. But that's probably it from the Washington side. And then on Miami, without Jimmy Butler, can expect big roles for Bam Adebayo, for Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero if he does play. I think Bam and Lowry are probably the two guys I'm looking to on Miami, and that's probably it. This matchup against the Wizards, I think's solid. Like the Wizards' interior defense with Porzingis. I mean, Porzingis has never been like a shutdown defender, so I think this is a matchup Bam can definitely excel in. He's going to play big minutes. The offense is going to run through him and Lowry and Hero if he were to play. Bam is in play for me. I think he's okay. Not loving him, but I think he's viable. I would definitely feel a little bit better about Bam if Hero were to sit. If Hero plays, I'm not really interested in Hero at 8K. He was pretty disappointing last game. Definitely, some a little concern. He's been out for like almost 20 days, so at 8K, I'm not going to really go to Hero today. And then Lowry at 7,800, I think is fine. I would feel a little bit better about Lowry if Hero were to sit as well. But he did play big minutes, 35 minutes, had 42 DK points. He's been really productive lately. Obviously, been kind of carrying the load without Jimmy Butler. So those are the guys I'm really interested in on Miami. Don't think I'm getting to anyone else on this team. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about Chicago and OKC. So on OKC, I think if I'm looking to anyone on OKC today, it's going to be SGA, and that's probably it. SGA as a pay-up option, I'm totally fine with. I mean, SGA at this point is basically in play every single slate. I know last game went to overtime against Denver, but even before overtime, SGA had already put up like a really good game. He's basically been like matchup proof this season. He's been crushing in every matchup. He's been averaging over 50 Draftkings points per game. I'm totally fine going to SGA today. I think he's a strong pay-up option. Probably not getting to anyone else on OKC though. And then on the other side with Chicago, the Bulls guys, it's always tough to go to these Bulls guys when they're all healthy, and I say that all the time. I think 8,100 for DeRozan is an okay price tag. I mean, he's exceeded value on the salary in like 3 straight games. OKC's defense is, mediocre. They've been playing at a really fast pace this season, so I think it's a pretty solid spot for DeRozan, and I definitely have some interest in him. He probably will get the Lou Dort matchup, but DeRozan's one of these guys that can crush in any matchup. I will say that this is a really, really good spot for Vooch. We've seen the Thunder give up a ton of big games to opposing centers. They really struggle to rebound, so I think this could be one of those games where Vooch gets like 20 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists. Like he has like one of those type of games. We've seen kind of a big ceiling from Vooch. It's always tough to predict when he's going to have one of those big games, but like against Philly, he put up 23, 19, and 3. Like I could see that being his stat line for today. Not saying he will do that, but it wouldn't surprise me if you got like 50 Draftkings points from Vooch tonight, just because OKC is so bad against centers. So the matchup does make Vooch really appealing. The price tag on DeRozan I think is a little too low. Levine is just like okay, and that's not really a guy I'm super interested in. The rest of the Bulls going to pass on, I think. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. And this is one where there is definitely some plays to like. We'll start off with the Pelicans side. So no CJ McCollum for the Pelicans. He was a late scratch last game. He's already been ruled out for this game. So without CJ McCollum, I think we can expect pretty big usage rates, pretty big roles for Brandon Ingram, for Zion Williamson, even a guy like J-Val maybe. I think Ingram and Zion are definitely the biggest beneficiaries here. Now Ingram was pretty disappointing last game without CJ McCollum, but he handled the ball a lot. He had 10 assists. He only took 9 shots, which I think was definitely something we can't expect to happen. Obviously, most nights Ingram's going to put up like 15, 20 shot attempts, and clearly without CJ McCollum, he should be looking at more usage, more shot volume here. Even at 8,400, this does feel like an appropriate price tag for Ingram, but I think he has the upside to pay off this price tag without CJ. And then Zion, I like a lot today. I think 8,200 for Zion is definitely too cheap here. Zion has always been a great point-per-minute player. It's always tough to really go to these Pelicans guys when they're all healthy, but obviously that's not the case today. They're going to be without CJ McCollum. So we can expect a pretty big role for Zion. He had a really big game last game without CJ McCollum. Put up 32 points, 11 rebounds, 54 Draftkings points. I know that was a really, really good matchup against the Spurs. This matchup against the Grizzlies is not as good, but I still think Zion's going to have a big role. His usage rate's going to spike without CJ. His point-per-minute production should be higher as well. He's probably my favorite play on the Pelicans, not counting value. Talking about value here, there's definitely some value with CJ out. We can look to Jose Alvarado. Alvarado did start last game in place of CJ McCollum. He played 30 minutes, was pretty productive, had 26 DK points. This season, Alvarado's been like a close to a point per minute player. He's going to play pretty good minutes. He's only 3,800. I think he's definitely one of the better values today, at least right now. And then you'll see some minutes for Devontae Graham off the bench. He played 28 minutes. He was also productive. I think going to Graham and GPPs does make some sense. I think Alvarado is probably the better play overall. I think he's going to project better. But ownership on Graham should definitely be lower since he's not starting, and he still has the upside even off the bench. And they'll play Graham and Alvarado alongside each other some. So I still think Graham is in play at 3,500 with McCollum out, and obviously Alvarado I like a lot for value. J-Val I didn't really mention. I think he's okay here. They're probably going to need his size in this matchup against Steven Adams. He did have a really good game last game in only 26 minutes. Obviously, again, really good matchup. This matchup not as strong, but I think minutes will be a little bit more secure for J-Val, just with one guy out of the rotation. His minutes have been tough to predict this season, but I think we get like 27, 28 minutes from J-Val here, and at 6,300, that does make him okay on the slate. But yeah, favorite plays from the Pelicans are Zion and Alvarado for me, and then I definitely am interested in Devontae Graham for GPPs. Ingram's fine, J-Val's fine, and that's probably it. And then on the Memphis side, I think if I'm looking to anything on Memphis today, it's probably going to be John Morant and maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. John Morant at 10-7, totally fine going to Ja on the slate. He's one of these guys, kind of like SGA. He's basically matchup proof. He can crush in any matchup. They've already faced the Pelicans once this season. Ja had a really good game, 57 DK points, played 36 minutes. He's going to see a lot of Herb Jones, who's a good defender, but clearly, that doesn't matter. I mean, Ja's a guy that can win in any matchup, so definitely interested in Ja for tournaments. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., minutes have kind of been slowly trending up for him. He got 27 minutes last game. He's been really productive on a point-per-minute basis this season, and his production should continue to be good while Desmond Bane is out. So I do like Jaren Jackson Jr. in the mid-range. I think he's viable too. Favorite play from Memphis, though, is probably going to be John Morant. The rest of the Memphis guys like Dylan Brooks, Steven Adams, Conchar, not really looking to these guys today. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We still got like 7 more to go over, so I want to get through these quickly, guys. Cleveland and Milwaukee. Not a game with a ton of interest. I think on the Cleveland side, I don't see much here. Mitchell and Garland in this matchup, I'm not super excited about. I know these teams played recently, and I want to say the game went to like overtime or something. It actually was, the Cleveland lost that game by a good amount. Mitchell was pretty disappointing. I must have been thinking about the wrong game. Mitchell was disappointing last time these teams played. Garland, he was okay, had 46 DK points. I mean, the Bucks this season, they've been like one of the best defensive teams in the league. So like, I don't really want to target any Cleveland guys today, especially because they're priced where they should be. They're all priced correctly. So Cleveland honestly might be a full fade for me. And then on the Milwaukee side, I think if I'm playing anyone on Milwaukee today, it's probably going to be Giannis. But I don't know if this is going to be a slate where I prioritize getting up to Giannis. It'll all depend on what kind of value we get. I thought Giannis was a guy that I had a lot of interest in last slate on Wednesday because there was so much value on Wednesday's slate. It was very easy to pay up for him. We could get a slate like that today where there's just a ton of value and then you can easily jam in Giannis, and I think I'm totally fine with that. I mean, tough matchup here against Cleveland, but Giannis clearly has a ton of upside. He has a really high floor. But if I had to make lineups right now with the value that we have, I don't think I'd be trying to force Giannis in. I think I'd save salary, play guys like John Morant, SGA, those guys that we've already talked about. So that's kind of my thoughts on Milwaukee. Not a ton I love on the Bucks, honestly, outside of Giannis. So moving on to the next game, Brooklyn and Indiana. Looking at Brooklyn today, KD, Kyrie, we're going to be doing this a lot this season. When these guys are priced where they are, 11-1 for KD and 9-2 for Kyrie, neither one of them I'm really in love with, but I will say this is a pretty strong matchup. The Pacers this season have been playing at a fast pace. I think this should be a pretty fast-paced, high-scoring game. I want to say earlier this season, both KD and Kyrie put up pretty good games against Indiana. KD, he put up, 48 and 61 DK points against the Pacers, and then I think Kyrie had some good games as well. Kyrie went for 48 and 53. So clearly the upside's there in this matchup, but since Kyrie has come back from his suspension, his point-per-minute rates have been really low. He's only been averaging a point per minute when he normally averages 1.4, 1.3. So I'm kind of going to wait and see on Kyrie. I feel like he's going to have a big game at some point, and it could come here. But I'm not running to roster Kyrie. Same goes for KD. Favorite play on Brooklyn's probably Ben Simmons. And, 7,200, I think Ben Simmons is now priced to a point where he's not he's not an obvious clear option, but I still think he's viable at this salary. we've seen the kind of the old Ben Simmons as of late. He's been a little bit more aggressive offensively. He's been getting those peripheral stats, getting rebounds, getting assists. He's getting defensive stats too. This is a good matchup against a fast-paced team that'll definitely turn the ball over some. Earlier this season, Ben Simmons put up 35 DK points. He played 36 minutes. He should get big minutes here. He's 7,200. If I had to play anyone on Brooklyn, I think Ben Simmons is probably my favorite guy, but I don't love a ton on the Nets today. I think it's a good matchup for Claxton, and his price tag is definitely low. So I think Claxton I'd be okay with. The 2 games against Indiana this year, he was pretty solid. 25 DK points in 22 minutes, 44 DK points in 31 minutes. The fact that he played 30 minutes last game was definitely good to see after he only played 21 the game before that. I think most nights Claxton's going to play around 28, 30 minutes. He's going to be splitting some minutes at center with Ben Simmons. They could close at center with Ben Simmons, but I think we can pencil in Claxton for at least mid to high 20s minutes. So at 5,200, him and Simmons are the 2 guys I'm interested in on Brooklyn. And then on the Indiana side, I think Tyrese Halliburton and GPPs make some sense. Price tag feels about right, but this is a strong matchup. This should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. I think Halliburton did really well against Brooklyn earlier this year. He had 53 DK points in one of their games. Also, last game, or the game before the game after that, he was pretty disappointing. But I think the ceiling's there. I think in GPPs, he's a low-owned option you can consider. Favorite play from Indiana, though, is probably going to be Miles Turner. 7,400 for Miles Turner. This is a price tag that I still think is a bit too low. I mean, we've seen Miles Turner average almost 40 DraftKings points per game this season. He's been really productive on a point-per-minute basis. He's going to play 33, 34 minutes if this game's close. Brooklyn has historically kind of struggled against bigs, so definitely, my favorite play on the Pacers is Turner. And honestly, in this game in general, I think he's my favorite play overall. He should be like 8K. I still think 7,400 is a bit too cheap for Miles Turner. But that's it for this one. Let's move on to the next game, Atlanta and Houston. So this is one that should be very fast-paced and high-scoring. I know both these teams play fast. Atlanta this season is, they're where are they at in pace? I want to say they're towards the top of the league in terms of pace. Last time I checked, Atlanta's 6th in pace, and then Houston is 11th. So this is a game that should be high-scoring, fast-paced. I think it's a really good spot for both Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. It's always tough to when these 2 guys are healthy. It's always tough to predict which one's going to have the good game. Could be both of them here. I wouldn't be surprised if they both had a good game, just because the matchup is so good. We've seen Houston give up a lot of big games to opposing guards, guards that can score. Trae had 50 DraftKings points earlier this season against Houston. 10K is probably, a price tag that he, is reasonable for him. It's not like he's too cheap or anything, but the matchup's so good that I think Trae Young has plenty of upside here, and I don't mind going to him in GPPs. Given the savings, though, I think I do prefer DeJounte Murray. And between the 2 Atlanta guards, I think he is my favorite. He was really good last time they played Houston, 56 DK points in 38 minutes. Matchup sets up so well for Murray. He's a guy that can, just do everything when he's on the floor in these fast-paced games. You can see him post triple-doubles. You can see him rack up defensive stats. His point-per-minute production's been down lately, but he has had some really tough matchups. He's had to face Milwaukee, Boston, Toronto, Cleveland. It was definitely disappointing to see him struggle as much as he did last game against Sacramento, but this is definitely a get-right spot for DeJounte Murray, and I think 9,100 in this matchup, I'm fine going to Murray today. Probably my favorite play on Atlanta is Murray, then Trae. That's probably it. I think Clint Capella's okay, but his price tag is 6,700, feels, correct. The rest of Atlanta, I'm not really looking to. And then on the Houston side, I think KPJ and Jalen Green are both low-owned dart throws. Again, this game should be played at a really fast pace, so I think there is some upside for both of those guys. Şengün at 6,400, I don't mind. Anytime Şengün is priced in the low to mid-6s, he's usually going to be a viable option. He's a good point-per-minute player. He's not going to play huge minutes, but he should play 30, 32 minutes here. I think at 6,400, he's okay. But my favorite plays in this game are on the Atlanta side with guys like Trae, DeJounte, and Capella. I think DeJounte is my favorite play overall in this game. But that does it for this one. Let's move on to the next game, the Lakers and the Spurs. So for the Lakers today, Anthony Davis should be probable. I'm pretty sure he's probable. He's expected to play. But LeBron could definitely have a chance to return today. We got word that LeBron plans to play Friday, and then the most updated report we got was that he's questionable. So the fact that the first report that came out about LeBron was that he plans to play, I'm going to assume that LeBron is playing today. So if LeBron is playing, makes it tough to really have a ton of interest in many Lakers outside of maybe LeBron and AD. AD has been so good these last few games without LeBron. He's been taking on a massive role, massive usage rate, playing huge minutes. I mean, last game against the Suns in a tough matchup, he had 84 DraftKings points. Anthony Davis has been dominating lately. You look at his game log, he's got 56 plus DraftKings points in 5 straight games. He's got 63 DraftKings points in 4 straight games, at least 63 DK points. If LeBron comes back, I don't think I'm going to go to Anthony Davis on this slate, but the matchup is really good. He did crush against the Spurs last time they faced. If LeBron sits, though, I think Anthony Davis is probably one of my favorite pay-up options today if LeBron's out, because this is just such a good spot. The Spurs don't have anyone they can put on AD to slow him down. He should dominate once again here. So we'll have to keep an eye on the LeBron news. For now, I think he's going to play, but if he does sit, really, really like Anthony Davis. I think Russell Westbrook would be okay. That probably would be it for my interest in the Lakers. And then on the San Antonio side, this season the Lakers have been playing at the fastest pace in the league. So, I think it's kind of a good spot for these San Antonio guys. Keldon Johnson, I think, is priced correctly, but he's viable as like a GPP option. Same goes for Jakob Poeltl. Trey Jones, I think, is okay in what should be a fast-paced game. None of these Spurs guys stand out as like priority plays, but I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, these are guys that I'd be okay kind of sprinkling in, just because I think they're one of them could have a good game here in what should be a relatively fast-paced, high-scoring game. But that's it for this one. Let's move on to the next game, the Suns and the Pistons. So for the Pistons today, still no Kay Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey out as well. A tough matchup here against the Suns, and I think there's definitely some blowout risk in this game, so I'm not really that interested in many Pistons today. Bojan, 6,900, is priced where he should be. Jaden Ivey, you could still go to at 6,800, but I think this is definitely a tough spot. He'll probably get guarded by Mikal Bridges, which I obviously don't love that matchup. I know Alec Burks has had some good games off the bench lately, but he's 5,200. That feels like an appropriate price tag. Killian Hayes is questionable, I think. He got injured in their last game, and then he had to miss the rest of the game. If he were to sit, that would definitely open up a guy like Corey Joseph to play a lot of minutes. Last game after Cunningham went down, after Hayes went down, Corey Joseph played 23 minutes. So like 3,300 Corey Joseph, if Killian Hayes gets ruled out, I could see playing Corey Joseph today for value. I don't love Corey Joseph. I don't really ever love playing him, but he's okay at 3,300. He probably would be my favorite play from the Pistons in general, but in general, I think I'm going to be probably just staying away from this Pistons team. And then on the Suns side, no Chris Paul once again, so we can expect a big role for Devin Booker, big role for Cameron Payne. Booker's almost 10K, so I'm probably, I'm not that interested in Booker at the salary. I think he's priced where he should be, if not a little bit overpriced. I'd rather get up to guys like, Anthony Davis if LeBron were to sit, John Morant, SGA. I think these are guys I'd rather play over Booker. Cameron Payne at 7,300, I'm still okay with. It's a really good matchup. I know the Pistons this season have been giving up a lot of big games to opposing point guards. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do see like a 45, 50 DraftKings point game from Payne here. He's been pretty good on a per minute basis without Chris Paul this season. Minutes are going to be solid. He's definitely viable. Ayton against the Pistons, I could be okay with that, but I think 7,200 is like an appropriate price tag for him. That's really it, though, from the Suns. And I really don't see much I like in this game, to be honest with you. I think my favorite play in this game, probably Cameron Payne, but that's probably it. So last two games of the night, the Jazz and the Warriors. You're starting off with the Warriors. I think this one's pretty kind of clear for me. It's Steph, and that's probably it. I don't think Wiggins, Poole, Draymond, Clay on this slate I'm really going to go to. 13 games, there's just so many other options. Curry is one of these guys that's just matchup proof, and I'm pretty much always going to consider Curry every slate. Just playing one lineup today, like, is Curry going to make my one lineup? I don't know. I would say probably not. But I think his ownership will be fairly low on a big slate like this. Clearly, he has massive upside every time he steps on the floor. His rebounds, his assists have been way up this season. Usage rate is still very high as well. So I'm totally fine with Steph in tournaments. That's probably it from the Warriors. On the Utah side, Jordan Clarkson's a guy that I still do have interest in. We've seen him take on a big role without Mike Conley the last two games. The price tag did come up to 6,700, but in a fast-paced game against the Warriors playing at the second fastest pace in the league this season, I think Clarkson definitely offers some upside here. He's going to take a lot of shots. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He's still viable in my opinion. And then Colin Sexton had a really good game last game without Conley. He was disappointing their first game, but last game played 35 minutes, had 36 DK points. So far this season, Sexton's been pretty solid on a point-per-minute basis, and I'd assume he plays pretty good minutes once again here with Conley out. So I'm definitely interested in Sexton as a value play. And then for GPPs, if you want to take some shots on a guy like Malik Beasley or maybe Taylor Horton-Tucker, I know Malik Beasley had a really good game last game, 55 DraftKings points for him. Wouldn't expect that again, but clearly the minutes are going to be there, and without Conley, he should have a bigger role as well. And then Taylor Horton-Tucker should probably play like low to mid-20s minutes. He only got 13 minutes last game, but I think most nights he's going to play like 20, 22 minutes. Probably not a guy you're going to go to on the main slate, but if you're playing like the late night slate, if there's like a 2 or 3 game slate for the late games, I could see playing like Taylor Horton-Tucker on the late slate. But that's it for this one. Let's go and talk about the last game of the night, the Nuggets and the Clippers. So for the Nuggets today, I think for the Nuggets, it's probably just going to be Jokic for me, and that's it. You know, Jamal Murray sat out last game, but he's expected back. Michael Porter Jr. is questionable, I think, so we'll have to keep an eye on his status. But like with Jamal Murray back, you know, Bruce Brown had a really big game last game, but now that Jamal's back, that's going to take Bruce Brown out of play. Guys like Aaron Gordon, I'm not really going to go to. Jamal, I think it's 7K is priced about right. I think Jokic is the one guy I'd be interested in from the Nuggets today. You know, the Clippers this season, you know, they're an okay matchup for centers. I think this is a spot where Jokic can have plenty of success. We saw Jokic have a really big role last game without Jamal Murray. Obviously, with Jamal Murray back, usage rate might take a little bit of a hit, but still, Jokic has a ton of upside, and I think he's a strong pay-up option. And then on the Clippers side, so we did get word that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both without a timetable to return. So it looks like Paul George and Kawhi are both going to be out today, and Luke Kennard I think is going to be out too. So without Kawhi, without Paul George, I mean we can expect pretty good opportunity for guys like John Wall, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell. I think my favorite plays from the Clippers are probably Wall, Jackson, and Powell. I think Jackson and Powell are definitely the two guys I like the most. So $5,500 for Jackson does feel a little bit too cheap. He was disappointing last game, but it was also a blowout. He lost minutes because of the blowout. The last few games, though, without Paul George and Kawhi, he's been pretty good, and the price tag's still fairly low on Reggie Jackson, so I definitely think Reggie Jackson is in play on the slate. I do have some interest in him. And then Norman Powell's been playing really well, like as their sixth man coming off the bench. 36, 41, 31 DK points last 3 games. Clearly, he's going to get more usage, more opportunity without Kawhi Leonard, without Paul George, and he's only 4,700. So I think Norman Powell's a pretty good value play today. And then Terrence Mann has been starting lately. He should start once again. He played 33 minutes last game. I'd assume he gets similar minutes here. He's only 3,800. I think he's a pretty good value play. So there's definitely a lot to like from the Clippers. It's a tough spot for Zubac, so I don't know if I'd go to Zubac, but I think like John Wall, even Marcus Morris, I don't hate. I think Reggie Jackson, though. Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, my 3 favorite plays from the Clippers today. And then obviously on Denver, it's kind of Jokic for me, and that's really it for Denver. So that does it, guys. 13-game slate for Friday night. Obviously, big slate. There was a ton to talk about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, though. Hopefully I broke everything down the best I could. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you haven't checked out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks, sign up for PrizePicks, guys. Use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But good luck tonight. Thanks for watching the video as always, guys. Appreciate your support. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.